just confess to you one part of this verdict, or I mean, which I'm somewhat uncomfortable with, by implication, the prices and the breakup of the prices of a deal. Now there is legal precedent for it not to be revealed.
CAG will keep all those this thing khali,
I know the counter argument. The counter argument is that manufacturers don't want to give away details, so if it comes out in India, they would lose funds when they try and sell it to another party.
No,
therefore, India needs to protect their interests. But I find that as a citizen of this country, I would like to know where my taxpayers' euro has gone.
Let me answer that. There is a jurisdiction of the Supreme Court which works within the parameters of constitution and law. Then there is a parliament which has a sovereign body which goes beyond the Supreme Court, where they can. So therefore you have a parliamentary committee system to go and review all kinds of things.
Okay, just 1 second. We're going to flip now back to the Sabrimala judgment. Let's go across to Arunachalam Vaidyanathan, who's got Rahul Ishwar with him. Vaidya, go ahead.
We have got Mr. Rahul Ishwar. He is not only an activist but also a petitioner in the Sabrimala case. So what's your views on this today's judgment?
This is a positive verdict. This is a partial victory, but definitely a positive verdict. Supreme Court has implicitly accepted that the earlier verdict was wrong. That's the reason why the review is given. And it has also clubbed all other religions matter into this. We also see that as a positive step.
But one thing, court never said the earlier verdict was wrong. It's a majority judgment, but the earlier judgment is not stayed. Women can still go in.
Yeah, but unless if that verdict is when it is reviewed, it implicitly means there was some issue with that verdict. Otherwise, why should they review it? If it was a 100% perfect verdict, there was no need to review. They could have easily pushed.
But women of all ages can still.
But yeah, definitely yes. But we will still continue to protest on ground, and we will raise peaceful resistance to any intrusion to the temple, just like the last time.
But one of the judgments by Justice Nariman, who dissented, he said that Supreme Court judgment will have to be obeyed, and the rule of law will have to be established. Absolutely. And particularly he was referring to the violent incident, asking the Kerala government to be careful. So what's your views? Because
we also believe in rule of law. Just like the Jallikattu protest that happened in Sabrimala, we will have our protest in Tamil Nadu. We will have our protest in Sabrimala, because Constitution also allows the ordinance routes, and we will also try in that time for an ordinance kind of thing from the central government, so that there can be a positive approach to it. Anyway, it's a partial victory. Please remember, reviews are not given that easily. Yes, you might be knowing. So it's anyway a review. So it's a partial victory. We are on the way to victory. We will have much more victories on the coming days.
So you are very optimistic.
We are very optimistic. We will. Thank you.
So that was Rahul Ishwar, one of the petitioners in the Sabrimala case.
Right.
So as far as Sabrimala is concerned, the Supreme Court has referred the main issue to a 7-judge larger bench, Vishnu.
Vaidya, one clarification on the other case, and let's bring up the graphics on the Rafale case, that petition being dismissed. It was a unanimous verdict. Am I right, Vaidya? However, the reasons may have been different between the judges. Is that correct, Vaidya?
Yes, Vishnu, absolutely correct. You see, it's a 3-judge bench headed by the Chief Justice of India, Justice Ranjan Gogoi, Justice S.K. Kaul and Justice K.M. Joseph. So Justice S.K. Kaul has authored the judgment on behalf of Chief Justice and himself. So it basically said, number one, the roving inquiry cannot be ordered into this deal, and it has also accepted the centre's affidavit saying that some corrections have to be made, because you know that CAG thing, the judgment said that already CAG had gone into it after that big controversy arose. The centre again filed an application saying that they want to withdraw things, so that has been accepted. So Justice K.M. Joseph, writing the judgment separately, agreeing with the Chief Justice and Justice Kauls, he has given his own reasons. So basically, on the whole, it's a unanimous judgment. The reasons basically, in a court, he reads out so fast.
Right.
So what he said was, if there is a cognizable offence, it's for the CBI to take action. So basically, petitioners wanted CBI to register FIR. So the Justice Kaul on Chief Justice judgment basically says that it can't be done, there can't be any roving inquiry, whereas Justice Joseph agreeing with that, saying that if there is a cognizable offence, it's for the CBI to look into it. But anyway, all these finer details will have looked into it. Another politically important point of Rahul Gandhi's Chaukidar Chor, that remarks, bringing Supreme Court into the whole issue. Of course, he has tendered an apology, but the judgment went on to say Rahul Gandhi will have to be more careful. There cannot be any political discourse bringing the Supreme Court into this issue, and let him off with a caution, agreeing and accepting his unconditional apology, saying that Rahul Gandhi should be very careful in future.
All right. So in case you've just joined us, I'm going to quickly summarize two cases. Let's start with Rafale, since we are talking about that. The Rafale review petition has been dismissed by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court rejecting the demand for an FIR to be filed, which would have paved the way for an investigation, likely by the CBI in this particular case. This was a unanimous verdict by the three judges listening to this. The reasons would have been somewhat different between the judges. One of the judges, while agreeing with the decision to dismiss the review petition, was stating his own reasons in his judgment. We need to get the copies of the judgment. That will come in a few hours from now. And as far as Rahul Gandhi is concerned, this entire case was associated with him because of the Chaukidar Chor Hai slogan of Rahul Gandhi in the run-up to the elections. It was arguably the main plank upon which the government, I beg your pardon, the Congress fought these elections. But the petitioners who opposed him and said that there was contempt of court in his remarks, had said that his remarks were critical of the Supreme Court as well. The Supreme Court has forgiven him. They've accepted his apology. They've closed the contempt case. That they have warned him, however, to be careful. So he's been let off in that. So now that's one case. The other one with huge significance for millions across this country, the Sabarimala case, where the Supreme Court, in not a unanimous verdict but a majority verdict, has 3-2, has referred the matter to a 7-judge bench of the Supreme Court. It was a 5-judge bench which was hearing it. 3 of the judges referred the issue to a larger bench and said that the issue of allowing women entry into the Sabarimala temple needed to be looked at along with other religious practices involving the Muslim community, the Parsi community, the Bora faith, and the cases are very different. At the same time, and this is important, the older judgment, that was last year's judgment, which did allow women entry into the Supreme Court, into the Sabarimala temple, I believe stands. But the Supreme Court has said, and this is important, that they've called for peace and they've asked the Kerala government to ensure that on the ground broad messages are spread on the message of the Supreme Court, and that there should be no effort to try and raise the issue which may get potentially out of hand. So 2 important judgments over there. There were dissenting views as well in this particular issue, and I'll try and find some of those details over there on what the dissenting views were, because they were actually quite interesting in this particular case. Just going through, right, the minority judgment as far as Sabarimala was Justice Nariman and Justice Chandrachud, who said that the holy book of the Constitution of India gives non-negotiable values, is what Justice Nariman said, and that the compliance of Supreme Court orders is non-negotiable. In other words, referring to the previous order which allowed women entry of all ages into the Sabarimala temple, stating that this is non-negotiable and that human dignity is a fundamental value. Human dignity is a fundamental value. Let's talk a little bit about this particular case as well. 3-2, 7-judge bench. The part I don't understand is how does one equate entry into temples or mosques with issues such as female genital mutilation, which by the nature are very different, need to be addressed, obviously.
This is about fundamental rights of women. That is where the common principles are cutting across all these 3 or 4 examples that have been cited in the Supreme Court. This is all about fundamental rights of women in terms of constitution. Let me answer the minority issue out here. The holy book of the Constitution.
That was an interesting phrase.
No, but there is.
I found that very interesting.
So no, there is more interesting thing coming out now. There is holy book of religion. There is a holy book of Constitution. Holy book of a Constitution can be changed and amended, but the holy book of religion you cannot change. The scriptures, say Quran, you can't add anything or change it, or for example Bible. But Constitution is evolving, continues continuously changes. Amendments, how many amendments, we don't even remember how many amendments have been brought in. So that's the difference between the two. Holy Book of Constitution also talks of dignity. Religion also talks of dignity. One side is individual freedom, the other side is collective freedom of a group. The complex questions are there, and these judges, full of wisdom, certainly thought about it, that it's not as simple as black and white to just write this thing, and it requires far more deeper understanding, and to add 2 more judges to bring, more clarity to the subject.
Vinu?
Vishnu, if you see recent history, if you see, say, even 400-500 years, women were not given many rights. Voting rights also came late. Now you could argue that various traditions kept women kind of constrained in society. By and by, of course, modern constitution have given them freedom. So I think what Justice Chandrachud, I agree with what he and Nariman have said. If constitution, the most uncomplicated solution is to treat the constitution as the holy book. Guarantees given there should be observed, and I think this is really complicating what they are now talking about, looking at, as you said, the Bora case and other cases. It will I don't think it will bring clarity if traditions which are if certain traditions which constrain the rights of women are privileged over constitutional rights. I don't think this will ever bring clarity, whether the Hindu tradition or whether it's the Muslim or Bori tradition.
All right, so we've got a couple of reactions over there. We'll take a short break at this stage, come back with more news. 2 very important verdicts from the Supreme Court. We've been seeing verdicts being delivered in the Supreme Court at a lightning pace. That's because the Chief Justice of India, Chief Justice Gogoi, retires in a couple of days from now. Lots of very important pending judgments. Ayodhya, an absolutely huge one, but today's Sabrimala judgment, I think in the context of what Deshratan was saying, that this is something which is going to take a fair amount of time in getting a resolution on it, particularly in light of what the Supreme Court has said, where they've equated other issues and saying that they need to be looked at not on a piecemeal basis, but overall in terms of the rights of women in several cases. Means that this is something which is going to come on over and over again. And the Rafale verdict, politically loaded, there the Supreme Court has dismissed the petition. So the Rafale deal is entirely kosher as far as all 3 judges in a unanimous verdict believe as far as that case is concerned. We'll take a short break, come back with more.
The Supreme Court has actually now moved this to a 7-member bench. And what I feel is that the first petitioners who had given, it was given as women discrimination. Whereas this has nothing to do with women discrimination, this has nothing to do with gender equality or menstruation. This is purely a custom, a ritual followed in the temple, because the temple belongs to the deity and the deity has a right. The deity is a Naishtaka Brahmachari, and we believe that the deity should be left alone for following his meditation and his whatever studies what he's doing. So we women between the age of 10 to 50 don't particularly go there. Now why the court has now moved it to a 7-member bench is because they need time to review this again. They need time to investigate more into this matter, and I am very hopeful that dharma will be upheld very soon.
यहाँ पे भी 3+2 ऐसा निर्णय आने वाला था, तो कहीं ना कहीं इस निर्णय के बाद भी महिलाओं को विरोध हो सकता है, हिंसा हो सकती है. इसीलिए मुझे लगता है कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने ये डिसीजन लिया है कि लार्जर बेंच के यहाँ पे जाएगा, जो 7 जजों की बेंच वहाँ पे होती है. और हमें पूरी तरह फिर से एक उम्मीद है कि अभी निर्णय जो है वो 3+2 का आ रहा था. इसमें 3 जज का जो स्टेटमेंट था वो महिलाओं के बाजू से था, और 7 जज का जब बेंच वहाँ पे निर्णय के लिए आएगा तो पूरी तरह महिलाओं के अधिकार की ही जो है वहाँ पे जीत होगी.
Please remember, we are all under Supreme Court. We are proud to obey Supreme Court. At the same point of time, Article 25 also gives us some rights. See, faith is not above law. Please remember nobody has that argument. But at the same point of time, law gives some elbow room to faith too. So that is the most important thing, and I think we should celebrate this particular verdict.
Do you think that the Article 26 rights of denomination, that is something that you are unsuccessful in convincing the court about? Will you now use that as one of the pleas as well to convince the court about the rights of devotees of Lord?
Thank you for that question. That is what we are focusing on, Article 25 and 26, especially 26, the way we run the particular shrine, the deity's right, it all will be there. And please remember, this will empower every temple, church and mosque across India, and everyone will have their own right to self-determination.